The great American dream has changed from peace, family, and all those things to having a good job. That seems subtle. That's a huge sociological shift because it changes everything that we do. Changes when we get married, or if we get married at all, changes how many kids we have, puts women in the workforce, but it changes how everybody thinks about jobs. Here's what you need to know. Back in the old days, you were a salary man. Sorry, ladies, but there weren't women in the workplace back then. Everybody dressed the same. They did not identify themselves by their jobs. Now in the United States of America, your job is who you are. But it means that you got to question every premise and every strategy that you have as a leader for us to make sure that the United States of America can rise up and compete again with the rest of the world.
So now at a young age, I'm learning how to be responsible with money. A few weeks ago, I read in the Washington Post about an idea to put financial literacy lessons into our schools day. This is the kind of education that is needed so students like me can learn more about financial responsibility. Kids really need to learn how to manage money. Finally, I think it takes the whole community to teach young people, such as myself, how we can reach our potential. It is important for parents, teachers, and mentors to help teach my generation from an early age the language of money.
What I really want to take a minute to talk about, however, is this generation, this young people, the millennial generation. I know there's lots of different definitions, and I'm sure Gallup has a very specific one of where they are. My personal definition is people who had instant messaging in grade school. I really do think when you grow up with these technologies, your neurons, your brains are wired differently. You have different assumptions and you have different expectations about what is possible in the world. And I really believe right now that this generation is on a tipping point. In the next couple years, this generation as a whole is going to go in a large degree in one of two directions. Either in the direction of that sort of lost generation that they talk about in Japan, a decade of stagnation, a decade lacking economic growth, a generation that lost hope, especially compared to those that came before them. Or, and this is how I believe it's going to turn out, this generation is going to be the next greatest generation. If you look at the stories of that greatest generation that frankly built the modern country that we have today, most of the focus is on their experiences in World War II. But from my own grandparents' background, from everything, when you really dig into it, it was their experiences during the Depression that really shaped who they were. When they landed in France, when they landed in Italy, because of their scrappy nature, frankly, of what they had to do as families to get through the Depression, they knew how to make things happen, while Japanese and German soldiers waited for someone to tell them what to do. So they came out of the Depression with those experiences, and I am seeing that in this young generation right now.
We do need to do a better job at inspiring and educating our kids around financial education, financial matters. It's not about putting a kid in a classroom and teaching them for a week about some financial concepts, about a mortgage that they have no idea or really way to wrap their mind around. John O'Brien is totally right when he says we need to inspire people around products and a vision for the future. But that doesn't exist alone in a vacuum. The second thing is access. When they get out of high school, when they go to get a bank account, it's critical that that product is appropriate and makes sense for them and works for them and doesn't contain tricks and traps and drive them out of the banking marketplace. 8% of Americans still do not have a bank account. And the numbers are startling when you think about African Americans and Latinos. 1/3 of African Americans do not have a bank account. The simple, basic on-ramp to the financial mainstream and the financial system. 1 in 4 Latinos and 1 in 5 people who make households make under $30,000 a year don't have a bank account. We have to change that issue if we're going to make sure that all Americans are engaged in the financial mainstream and all can contribute to the economy.
Because I really believe, kind of echoing what Josh said, what John and others have said, that the best way that you're going to inspire, the best way that this will take hold is through the experience of actually being in that environment. And I think that, you know, with the AJ story that you talked about, if when AJ came up to you, you gave him a book instead and said, hey, this is a really good book to read, he probably would have read it, he would have done well, but it wouldn't have been the same as saying, come in here for an interview and him actually walking the halls and working in this environment. And so I think that, you know, taking steps within the public sector, but the private sector, and trying to inspire them to really ramp up the opportunities that they're providing to young people is a tremendously important thing that we need to do. And, you know, the research that you all have done here, I want to commend you. I want to commend Operation HOPE and Gallup and for all that you've done. And I have a vested interest in it because my job in the White House, I run urban policy. And the theory of the case for us is that the country, the future of the country is how you can strengthen your cities and your metropolitan regions and get them operating at their full economic potential. And, you know, a couple years ago, for the first time in history, more than 50% of the people in the world live in cities and metropolitan areas. In the US, 83% of the population live in cities and metropolitan areas, 85% of the jobs, 90% of the GDP. For a city or a region to be successful, we have to be tapping into this R&D of the 50 million kids who are living in these communities.
The debate that's up here every day, unfortunately, is either about spending and stimulating our way out of this or cutting and saving. We have to create our way out of this. And that's where entrepreneurs come in. Christopher Columbus conned the Queen of Spain to give him money to go see if you could go west and go end up east. Now let's dig on that for a little bit. The end game was he was not an explorer, he was an entrepreneur. Have y'all seen Jurassic Park? The theory of chaos? Mm-hmm. You know what the theory of chaos is playing out right now in America? The DNA in this country is that if you can dream it, you can build it. We have a deficit of jobs and a surplus of work to do. A surplus of work to do. If you want to see the theory of chaos, it's mobile vending. You hear what I'm talking? You ever see the mobile vendors out there? They're saying, excuse me, government, I'm not taking it anymore. I'm not going to work for the man or the woman anymore. I'm going to create something that wasn't there before. And instead of being location, I built $1 billion ad agency and I bought a 1973 Airstream. From $1 billion ad agency to trailer trash. I'm climbing down the corporate ladder. You know why? To inspire the young at heart that you can dream it and you can build it. This, what y'all are doing right now, is not a silver bullet, but at least we've brought a gun to a gunfight instead of a knife. That's a Texas thing. But
for the first time, we're capturing what youth say. As a performance technologist, I will tell you there is what the individual says, thinks, believes, how they're influenced, what the environment provides to them. Now we get a chance to know what youth are saying. This is what motivates me, this is what I'm interested in, and this is where I can or cannot practice. I'm not having that opportunity. And so conducting this local audit becomes extremely important. We talked about this national audit, but now going to Miami, going to the Dallas, going to Los Angeles and say, what does this look like for us? We can tell you nationally represented samples, but what does this look like for you? If only 50% of these kids have money in a bank account, are we giving them an opportunity for money, to make money, to put money in that bank account? If you notice, only 5% of kids actually said that they have some level of job, that they work over one hour. Are we giving them an opportunity to make money, and are we giving them accessibility to that bank account to practice?
The president has put out a jobs bill. We need to have this as the nation's focus. We can argue on the details, but we are missing the biggest thing, which is we're having a confidence crisis in America. This has moved from a financial crisis to an economic crisis, to a liquidity crisis, to a crisis of confidence. We don't believe anymore. We've got to get our confidence back. We've got to get our storyline back. The president is right to push for a focus on jobs. Now, this discussion has to involve all of us because the president is not going to solve your problems. He's not going to meet your mortgage payments. He's not going to raise your children, and he shouldn't. We should do that. We've got to empower ourselves with solutions. And so the fireside chat has to happen. We got to think global but act local.